The ballroom of the Grand Marlowe Hotel shined under hundreds of small crystal lights. It was the morning of one of the biggest business events of the year. Chairs were arranged in neat rows, screens set up on every wall, and the air carried the mixed smell of coffee and fresh paper. At the center of it all stood Mr. Daniel Cross, a CEO known for his sharp mind and calm face. He had built his company from a small lab into a giant name in the world of medicine. Today was the day he would present a new formula to investors. If they believed in it, his company would win a $120 million deal that could change everything. Daniel had practiced the pitch many times. His team trusted him fully, and his investors waited with curiosity. But the morning was not as smooth for everyone. In the corner of the ballroom, moving quickly between tables with trays, was Maria, a waitress at the hotel. She was young but carried herself with quiet strength. She worked long hours, serving guests and keeping her head down, but her eyes noticed everything. She had grown up reading science magazines in the library her mother cleaned. Numbers and patterns stayed in her mind even when she wasn't trying. As Daniel rehearsed one last time near the stage, Maria passed by with a tray of water glasses. She glanced at the tablet in his hand, where lines of numbers and letters filled the screen. Something caught her eye. She paused for only a second, but her heart jumped. She recognized the formula. Not all of it, but enough. Something was off. She took a deep breath. A waitress whispering to a CEO during a billion-dollar event was unthinkable. She almost walked away, telling herself it was none of her business. But her conscience pushed her. Daniel felt someone beside him. When he turned, Maria leaned slightly closer. Her voice was calm but low, just enough for him to hear. "Sir, that's the wrong formula." Daniel blinked. For a moment he thought he misheard. "What did you say?" he asked softly. Maria lowered her tray and spoke carefully. "I am sorry to disturb you, but the formula you are about to show, it has an error. The second sequence is mismatched. If you say it, the scientists in the room will know." His chest tightened. He looked at her, a waitress in a simple black uniform, speaking with certainty. He wanted to dismiss her, but something in her steady eyes stopped him. He turned his tablet again, reading the numbers quickly. She was right. Somehow, in the late-night rush, he had copied the wrong sequence. If he had gone on stage with it, the mistake could have cost him the deal, and worse, his reputation. Daniel inhaled slowly. "How did you notice this?" he asked. Maria hesitated, then answered honestly. "I read about these compounds. I like to study when I can. I only saw it for a second, but the pattern looked wrong." For the first time in years, Daniel felt both shaken and curious. Here he was, a CEO ready to face the biggest investors of his life, saved at the last moment by a hotel waitress. He whispered back, "Thank you." But before he could ask more, his assistant rushed over. "Sir, it's time. Everyone is waiting." Daniel nodded, hiding the storm in his mind. He fixed the formula quickly, his fingers moving fast. Then he walked toward the stage, leaving Maria behind with her tray. Maria stood still for a moment, her heart pounding. She wondered if she had made a mistake by speaking up. Maybe he would be angry later. Maybe no one would believe her. She returned to her work quietly, serving guests with the same calm smile, though her mind was full of worry. On stage, Daniel began his pitch. His voice was strong, his words clear. Slides appeared behind him, showing the corrected formula. Investors leaned forward, taking notes, whispering to each other. The presentation moved smoothly, but Daniel's thoughts kept drifting back to the moment a young waitress had saved him from disaster. When the lights dimmed at the end, applause filled the room. He shook hands with investors, answered questions, and held his composure. But deep inside, he knew he could not leave things as they were. After the event, While his team celebrated, Daniel looked around the ballroom. He searched for her, the waitress with sharp eyes and a quiet whisper. Maria was near the back, stacking empty cups. She looked small in the busy crowd, almost invisible again. Daniel walked toward her. She noticed and froze, unsure of what to expect. He smiled, not as a CEO to staff, but as a man who owed something important. "You were right," he said quietly. "And you saved me today. What's your name?" Maria's hands tightened on the tray. "Maria, sir." Daniel nodded. "Maria. I think we should talk." In that simple sentence, her life began to change. The ballroom grew quieter as guests left, their voices fading into the wide halls of the Grand Marlowe Hotel. The bright screens were turned off, leaving only the golden glow of chandeliers. Staff moved quickly, clearing glasses and folding chairs. Daniel Cross stood near the stage, shaking hands with the last investor. His confident smile never left, but his mind was elsewhere. The applause, the success, even the promise of millions, none of it felt complete. His thoughts kept circling back to Maria, the waitress whose quick whisper had saved him. As the room emptied, Daniel finally walked toward the corner where Maria worked. She was wiping down a table, moving carefully, her black uniform neat though her face looked tired. She noticed his shadow fall across the table and looked up. "Sir," she said softly, her voice respectful but unsure. Daniel gave a small smile. "You can call me Daniel when we talk like this. May I join you for a moment?" Maria blinked, surprised. No CEO ever asked to sit with a waitress. Still, she nodded and stepped back as he pulled out a chair. He sat down, folding his hands in front of him. "You saw something today," he began. "Something no one else in the room noticed. That mistake could have ruined everything. How did you know so quickly?" Maria looked down, her fingers brushing the edge of her tray. "When I was younger, I used to sit in the library while my mother cleaned. I read about science, medicine, anything I could find. I don't have a degree, but sometimes I remember things. The formula you had, it looked familiar, but wrong. I just knew." Daniel studied her carefully. There was no arrogance in her voice, only quiet honesty. "So you read in your free time?" She nodded. "Yes. I like learning, but life kept me busy. I had to work to help my family, so I never went further with school." He leaned back slightly, thoughtful. A waitress who could catch what trained assistants missed, it sounded almost unbelievable, but he had seen it with his own eyes. "You saved me," Daniel said at last. "You saved the deal, my reputation, and the future of my company. Do you understand how important that was?" Maria shook her head lightly. "I didn't think of all that. I just didn't want you to make a mistake in front of everyone." Daniel's smile deepened. "That makes it even more impressive." Silence hung between them for a moment. Maria shifted uneasily, unsure why he was still talking to her. She had done her job, spoken her warning, and expected to disappear back into the background. Instead, here she was, sitting across from one of the most powerful men in the city. "I'd like to know more about you," Daniel said finally. "Not as a waitress, but as Maria. Do you mind?" Her heart raced. No one ever asked her that. Not guests, not managers, not even most of her co-workers. She looked at him, trying to measure his sincerity. I grew up here in the city," she began slowly. "My father left early, so my mother raised me. She worked as a cleaner. I wanted to study, but books were all I had. When she got sick, I started working here to support us. That's my story. Nothing special." Daniel shook his head. "It is special. Many people would have ignored what they saw. You didn't." Before Maria could answer, a loud voice called from the doorway. Mr. Cross, the investors are waiting for the dinner upstairs. Daniel glanced toward the assistant, then back at Maria. He lowered his voice. I need to go now, but I will return tomorrow. Will you be working? Maria hesitated, then nodded. Yes, morning shift. Good, Daniel said. He stood, adjusting his suit. Then tomorrow, we will continue this conversation. He gave her a respectful nod before walking away, his assistant falling in step beside him. Maria watched him go, her mind spinning. She had never expected her small act to lead to this. She worried again, was it wise to get involved? Was it dangerous to attract the attention of someone so powerful? Later that night, in his hotel suite, Daniel stood by the window overlooking the city lights. He thought of the applause, the promises from investors, and the documents he would sign in the coming days. But the brightest thought in his mind was of Maria's calm whisper. He realized something important. If she could see what his trained staff missed, then she had potential far beyond her uniform. Perhaps fate had placed her in his path for a reason. Meanwhile, Maria sat in her small apartment, her mother asleep in the next room. She replayed the day in her head, from the moment she noticed the formula to the moment Daniel promised to return. She wondered if it was real or just a passing moment that would vanish by morning. But deep inside, a spark of hope lit within her. For the first time in years, she felt her love for learning might not go unnoticed. The stage was set. One small whisper had tied two very different lives together, and neither Maria nor Daniel knew just how much it would change the future. The next morning, the Grand Marlow Hotel was alive with activity again. The smell of breakfast filled the air, plates clattered in the kitchen, and waiters hurried across the large dining hall. Maria tied her apron neatly and carried her tray, her steps steady though her mind was restless. She kept replaying Daniel's words from the night before. He had promised to return. But men like him lived in a world far above hers. Maybe he would forget. She forced herself to focus on her work. Guests needed their coffee, tables needed cleaning, and her manager was strict. Hours passed, and the rhythm of the morning shift carried on. Then, just as Maria placed a cup of tea on a table, the hall grew quieter. Heads turned toward the entrance. Standing there, tall and calm in a dark suit, was Daniel Cross. His presence drew eyes immediately, though he seemed not to notice. He searched the room until his gaze found Maria. Her heart skipped. He had kept his word. Daniel walked straight to her. "Good morning, Maria," he said, his voice warm. "May I sit?" Her co-workers stared in surprise, but Maria nodded quickly and led him to a small corner table. She set down a cup of black coffee for him, unsure what else to do. "I hope I'm not disturbing your shift," Daniel began. Maria shook her head. "No, Sir Daniel. It's fine." He smiled at her correction. "Good. I meant what I said yesterday. I want to know more about you. Not as a waitress, but as someone who clearly sees details others miss. Tell me, why didn't you study science formally?" Maria lowered her eyes. "I wanted to. But my mother got sick, and I had to earn money. Tuition was too much. Working here was the only way." Daniel nodded slowly. "I understand. Life pulls people in different directions. But your mind is sharp. You noticed an error that could have cost me everything. That is no small thing." Maria gave a small, uncertain laugh. "Maybe it was just luck." "No," Daniel said firmly. "It was not luck. It was ability." His words felt heavy, carrying weight Maria was not used to. She looked at him with a mix of disbelief and hope. "Maria," Daniel continued, "my company values talent. It doesn't matter where it comes from. I want you to come to our office. See what we do. If you're interested, I can find a place for you to learn, to grow. What do you think?" Maria froze. A chance like that was beyond anything she had imagined. Her hands tightened on her tray. She thought of her mother, of rent, of bills stacked on their small kitchen table. Leaving her job, even for a day, seemed impossible. "I don't know," she whispered. "This job is all I have. I can't risk it." Daniel leaned forward slightly. "I am not asking you to risk. I am offering a door. You can walk through if you choose. Come tomorrow. Just one day. If it doesn't feel right, you can walk away. But I think you belong somewhere bigger than this dining hall." His eyes held sincerity, not pity. That difference mattered to her. Still, fear tangled with hope inside her. "Let me think about it," Maria said carefully. Daniel nodded, respecting her caution. He finished his coffee and stood. "I'll send a car tomorrow at 9. If you're ready, it will bring you to my office. If not, the car will leave. The choice is yours." With that, he gave her a small smile and walked out. Guests whispered about the powerful CEO speaking to a waitress, but Maria hardly noticed them. Her heart raced with the weight of his offer. That night, Maria sat at the small kitchen table in her apartment. Her mother sat across from her, a thin blanket around her shoulders. Maria told her everything about the mistake she had caught, about Daniel, about the invitation. Her mother listened quietly, then took her hand. "Maria, you have always had a gift. You see things others do not. If someone is willing to open a door for you, at least step inside and look. You can always return, but you should not always hide." Maria felt tears sting her eyes. Her mother's words gave her courage. The next morning, as the sun rose, Maria stood outside her apartment. A black car waited, just as Daniel had promised. The driver opened the door politely. She hesitated only for a moment. Then, with a deep breath, she stepped inside. As the car pulled into the busy streets, Maria looked out at the city rushing past. For the first time, she felt she was not just going to work. She was going towards something new, something unknown. Far ahead, in his tall office tower, Daniel prepared to welcome her. He did not yet know what role she would play, but he trusted his instinct. The same instinct that told him one whisper had changed not just his pitch, but perhaps his entire future. The black car rolled through the busy city streets and stopped in front of a tall glass tower. The building seemed to touch the sky, shining bright under the morning sun. Maria stepped out, her heart pounding. She had passed this tower many times before but never imagined she would walk inside. The driver guided her to the entrance. The lobby was vast, with marble floors and tall pillars. People in suits moved quickly, carrying tablets and talking into headsets. It was a world far different from the hotel dining hall. Maria felt small in her simple dress, but she lifted her chin and walked forward. The receptionist looked up with a polite smile. "Good morning, ma'am. Mr. Cross is expecting you." Her name on the receptionist's lips felt strange. For the first time, she was not the waitress but a guest. She followed the assistant into a sleek elevator that carried her to the top floor. When the doors opened, Daniel Cross was waiting. He looked as calm as always, but his eyes lit up when he saw her. "Maria," he said warmly, "I'm glad you came." She gave a small nod. "I almost didn't, but my mother told me to try." Daniel smiled at that. "Your mother is wise." He led her into his office. It was wide and full of light, with tall windows showing the whole city below. On one wall stood shelves filled with books, and on another were framed awards. A large table in the center displayed models and charts of medical projects. "Please," Daniel said, pulling a chair for her. "Sit." Maria sat carefully, her hands folded in her lap. She felt the weight of the moment. Daniel leaned forward. "I want to be honest with you. I don't invite people here without reason. You have something special, an eye for detail. I want to see it in action. He pressed a button on his desk, and a young man entered, carrying a stack of folders. This is Adam, Daniel said. He is one of our researchers. He'll show you some of our ongoing projects. Just observe, ask questions if you like. There's no test. I only want to see how you think. Maria followed Adam into a meeting room where diagrams covered the walls. Scientists were discussing chemical chains, graphs, and trials. She listened quietly, not wanting to interrupt. But as they spoke, her eyes drifted over the data. Something caught her attention again. A line in the graph did not fit with the results written below it. At first, she doubted herself. But then she remembered the night before, her mother's words, "You see things others do not." Timidly, she raised her hand. "Excuse me. This chart, shouldn't the third line rise instead of fall if the reaction is stable?" The room grew silent. The researchers turned, surprised that a guest noticed. Adam leaned closer to the chart, then blinked. "She's right. This was mislabeled." Murmurs spread through the room. Daniel, who had walked in quietly behind them, watched with interest. He saw Maria's face flush, but her eyes were steady. After the session, Daniel called her back to his office. "Well done," he said. "Do you see what I mean now? You have a gift. You may not have studied formally, but your mind is sharp. With training, you could do much more." Maria shook her head slightly, overwhelmed. "I don't know if I belong here. Everyone is so smart, and I'm just stop," Daniel said gently. "You are not just anything. Belonging is not about titles. It's about what you bring. And today, you proved you bring value." Her chest tightened at his words. For years, she had hidden her love for learning, believing it useless in her world. Now someone told her it mattered. Daniel leaned back in his chair. "I would like to offer you something. Not a job right away, that would be unfair pressure. But a mentorship. You can come here part-time, learn from my team, and see if this path is truly for you. I will make sure your hours at the hotel don't suffer. What do you think?" Maria's breath caught. It was more than she dreamed. But doubt still lingered. "Why are you doing this for me?" she asked softly. Daniel looked at her with a calm expression. "Because someone once opened a door for me when I was young and untested. If he had not, I would never be here today. You whispered the truth to me when no one else did. This is my way of returning the same gift." Maria's eyes stung, but she held back her tears. She nodded slowly. Then, "I will try." Daniel smiled, satisfied. "Good. That's all I ask." As Maria left the tower later that day, the city looked different from above. She no longer felt like just a waitress moving unseen through crowded halls. She felt as if she had stepped into a new chapter of her life. She didn't know where this path would lead, but she knew one thing: her whisper had opened more than one door. Maria's days began to change. She still worked mornings at the hotel, carrying trays and greeting guests with her usual polite smile, but 3 afternoons each week she traveled to the tall glass tower where Daniel's company worked. At first, she felt out of place among the busy researchers, with their white coats and scientific terms. Yet Daniel's words echoed in her mind: belonging is not about titles, it's about what you bring. Her mentorship began gently. She sat in on meetings, observed experiments, and read reports. The staff were polite, though some seemed curious about why Daniel had brought a waitress into their world. Maria kept quiet, listening more than speaking. But she studied each page carefully, her sharp eyes noticing details others schemed over. One afternoon, Adam, the young researcher she had first met, handed her a set of trial results. "These are from our latest compound," he said. We're testing its stability. See if you notice anything. Maria spent an hour reading. The numbers danced in her mind like pieces of a puzzle. Something felt strange. The reaction times didn't match the expected results. She went back over the data twice, then called Adam. Look here, she said, pointing at a sequence. If this compound was stable, the second reading should be higher. But it drops sharply. Could it mean contamination? Adam's eyes widened. Contamination, we didn't think of that. He hurried off with the file, leaving Maria both nervous and proud. Later, Daniel entered the room. I heard you caught something important today, he said, his voice filled with quiet pride. That was sharp thinking, Maria. Very sharp. Her cheeks warmed. I only noticed because I read carefully. Exactly, Daniel replied. And that habit will take you far. But not everyone welcomed her presence. During a meeting the next week, a senior researcher named Dr. Hale frowned at her. With respect, Mr. Cross, he said, why is she here? We have trained experts. This is no place for hotel staff. The room fell silent. Maria felt the sting of his words, her hands tightening on her notebook. She wanted to shrink into her chair, but Daniel spoke firmly. She is here because she sees what others miss, Daniel said. And today's contamination discovery proves it. Titles do not matter as much as results. Dr. Hale said nothing more, but Maria could feel his disapproval. It lingered like a shadow. That evening, Maria sat at her kitchen table, staring at her notes. Doubt gnawed at her. Was she truly meant for this world? Or was she only embarrassing herself in front of professionals? Her mother noticed her silence. What troubles you, child? She asked gently. Maria sighed. Some of them don't want me there. They think I don't belong. Her mother reached over and touched her hand. Belonging is not given by others. It is proven by your actions. Did you help today? Yes, Maria whispered. Then you belong, her mother said firmly. The next day, Maria returned to the tower with renewed determination. Daniel welcomed her with a nod. Today you'll join us in the lab, he said. The lab was full of glass tubes, machines, and glowing screens. Researchers in coats moved carefully, recording results. Maria stood near Adam as he explained their process. They were running final tests on a promising compound, one that could strengthen the $120 million deal. As the machine processed the mixture, Maria leaned closer to the screen. She watched the numbers roll in. At first, everything looked fine. But then, the line on the chart dipped, subtle but clear. Her heart skipped. She remembered the contamination case before. Could this be another hidden flaw? She hesitated. If she spoke and was wrong, Dr. Hale and the others would laugh. But if she stayed silent and the error was real, the entire deal could fail. Gathering courage, she spoke. Excuse me. That reading, it doesn't match the earlier pattern. Could the base compound be unstable? The room stilled. Dr. Hale raised an eyebrow, clearly displeased. Unstable? Impossible. We've tested it dozens of times. Adam checked the data quickly. His eyes widened. Wait. She's right. Look, there's a slow breakdown forming. If we present this as stable, the investors will find out later. It could ruin us. Murmurs spread through the lab. Daniel stepped forward, his expression calm but firm. Then we must address it now. Thank you, Maria. Her knees felt weak, but pride filled her chest. She had spoken up, and she had been right. After the meeting, Daniel found her in the hall. You faced doubt today, he said, but you spoke anyway. That takes courage. Remember, truth is more important than fear. Maria nodded, his words sinking deep. That evening, as she left the tower, the city lights shone brighter. She realized something: this was no longer just mentorship. She was becoming part of the team, slowly but surely. And though challenges remained, Maria knew she could face them. For the first time, she truly believed she was walking toward a new life, step by step. The days moved quickly, and Maria's place in Daniel's company grew stronger. She still wore her hotel uniform in the mornings, but in the afternoons she stepped into the tower, where she read charts, studied trials, and asked questions others sometimes overlooked. Slowly, the researchers who doubted her began to watch her with quiet respect. But with the respect came pressure. The final stage of the $120 million deal was near. Investors wanted a complete report proving the new formula was stable, safe, and ready for market. Any flaw could break the deal at the last moment. Daniel called a meeting in the top-floor conference room. The long glass table was covered with files, screens glowed with charts, and the air felt tense. "Our investors will arrive in 3 days, Daniel said firmly. "We must be ready. Every test, every figure, must be correct. There is no room for mistakes." Maria sat near Adam, her notebook open. She felt the weight of the room pressing down on her. She had helped before, but this time was different. This time, the future of the company and perhaps Daniel himself was at stake. As the team presented results, Dr. Hale spoke with his usual sharp tone. "The data is complete. The compound is stable, the trials are clean. There is nothing to worry about." But Maria frowned as she looked at the charts. Something stirred in her memory. She traced a line with her finger, checking the numbers twice. The decay rate seemed almost too neat, too perfect. She leaned toward Adam. "These results, they look polished. Too polished." Adam blinked. "What do you mean?" "Nature is never this smooth," Maria whispered. "Even the best compounds have small irregularities. Here, it's like someone ironed out the numbers." Adam's eyes widened. He whispered back, "Are you saying the data might be altered?" Maria hesitated. If she spoke aloud and was wrong, she could destroy the trust she had built. But if she stayed silent and the investors found out later, the deal could collapse. Her decision was made. She raised her hand. "Excuse me," she said softly, her voice carrying through the room. "May I ask, why do these results look so perfect? Could we check the raw data again?" The room went silent. Dr. Hale's face darkened. "Miss, we have reviewed this data 100 times. It is accurate." Daniel leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "Maria, what are you seeing?" She swallowed her nerves. "The decay rate graph. It looks too smooth, like the irregularities were erased. Real results usually have small jumps, but here, every point is exact. I think we should confirm it." For a long moment, silence stretched. Then Daniel spoke. "Adam, pull the raw files." Adam hurried to the screen and brought up the original logs. Lines of numbers filled the wall display. Everyone leaned forward. Maria pointed. "There, see that? The early test showed a dip, but in the report it's gone. Someone changed it?" Murmurs spread through the room. Adam checked quickly. "She's right. The official report doesn't match the logs." Daniel's face hardened. He turned toward Dr. Hale. "Explain." Dr. Hale shifted uncomfortably. "The investors want clean results. Minor irregularities might make them doubt. I smoothed the data for presentation. It was only to protect the deal." Daniel's voice was calm but cold. "You know our rule. We do not lie. If the compound has flaws, we face them. If we hide them, we risk everything." He looked around the table. "This company stands on truth, not false numbers." "Maria, thank you for speaking up." Maria's chest tightened. Relief and pride mixed inside her. She had done it again, spoken the truth when silence would have been easier. But the tension did not fade. Without the polished numbers, the compound looked less perfect. Investors might question it. The deal was no longer certain. After the meeting, Daniel called Maria to his office. He stood by the window, looking out at the city lights. "You did the right thing," he said. "But this means our pitch will be harder. Investors like perfection. They may hesitate when they see the truth." Maria stepped closer. "But if they see honesty, won't they trust more in the long run?" Daniel turned, his eyes softening. "Perhaps. And perhaps that is what will save us." He walked back to his desk. "Maria, tomorrow you will help prepare the new report. Show every irregularity, every strength, every weakness. No hiding. If the investors walk away, at least we will have stood honest." Maria nodded firmly. "I will do my best." That night, as she returned to her small apartment, Maria felt the weight of the storm coming. She had wanted to help, but now she was in the very center of the company's greatest test. Her mother noticed her silence. "What troubles you, child?" Maria looked at her with tired eyes. "The truth is heavy, Mama. But I think it is the only path forward." Her mother smiled gently. "Then you already know the answer." The next morning, Maria returned to the tower with new resolve. The storm of the deal was almost here, and she would stand with Daniel through it. Whatever happened, she knew this. Her voice mattered. The days moved quickly, and Maria's place in Daniel's company grew stronger. She still wore her hotel uniform in the mornings, but in the afternoons she stepped into the tower, where she read charts, studied trials, and asked questions others sometimes overlooked. Slowly, the researchers who doubted her began to watch her with quiet respect. But with the respect came pressure. The final stage of the $120 million deal was near. Investors wanted a complete report proving the new formula was stable, safe, and ready for market. Any flaw could break the deal at the last moment. Daniel called a meeting in the top-floor conference room. The long glass table was covered with files, screens glowed with charts, and the air felt tense. "Our investors will arrive in 3 days, Daniel said firmly. "We must be ready. Every test, every figure, must be correct. There is no room for mistakes." Maria sat near Adam, her notebook open. She felt the weight of the room pressing down on her. She had helped before, but this time was different. This time, the future of the company and perhaps Daniel himself was at stake. As the team presented results, Dr. Hale spoke with his usual sharp tone. "The data is complete. The compound is stable, the trials are clean. There is nothing to worry about." But Maria frowned as she looked at the charts. Something stirred in her memory. She traced a line with her finger, checking the numbers twice. The decay rate seemed almost too neat, too perfect. She leaned toward Adam. "These results, they look polished. Too polished." Adam blinked. "What do you mean?" "Nature is never this smooth," Maria whispered. "Even the best compounds have small irregularities. Here, it's like someone ironed out the numbers." Adam's eyes widened. He whispered back, "Are you saying the data might be altered?" Maria hesitated. If she spoke aloud and was wrong, she could destroy the trust she had built. But if she stayed silent and the investors found out later, the deal could collapse. Her decision was made. She raised her hand. "Excuse me," she said softly, her voice carrying through the room. "May I ask, why do these results look so perfect? Could we check the raw data again?" The room went silent. Dr. Hale's face darkened. "Miss, we have reviewed this data 100 times. It is accurate." Daniel leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "Maria, what are you seeing?" She swallowed her nerves. "The decay rate graph. It looks too smooth, like the irregularities were erased. Real results usually have small jumps, but here, every point is exact. I think we should confirm it. For a long moment, silence stretched. Then Daniel spoke. Adam, pull the raw files. Adam hurried to the screen and brought up the original logs. Lines of numbers filled the wall display. Everyone leaned forward. Maria pointed. There, see that? The early test showed a dip, but in the report it's gone. Someone changed it? Murmurs spread through the room. Adam checked quickly. She's right. The official report doesn't match the logs. Daniel's face hardened. He turned toward Dr. Hale. Explain. Dr. Hale shifted uncomfortably. The investors want clean results. Minor irregularities might make them doubt. I smoothed the data for presentation. It was only to protect the deal. Daniel's voice was calm but cold. You know our rule. We do not lie. If the compound has flaws, we face them. If we hide them, we risk everything. He looked around the table. This company stands on truth, not false numbers. Maria, thank you for speaking up. Maria's chest tightened. Relief and pride mixed inside her. She had done it again, spoken the truth when silence would have been easier. But the tension did not fade. Without the polished numbers, the compound looked less perfect. Investors might question it. The deal was no longer certain. After the meeting, Daniel called Maria to his office. He stood by the window, looking out at the city lights. You did the right thing, he said. But this means our pitch will be harder. Investors like perfection. They may hesitate when they see the truth. Maria stepped closer. But if they see honesty, won't they trust more in the long run? Daniel turned, his eyes softening. Perhaps. And perhaps that is what will save us. He walked back to his desk. Maria, tomorrow you will help prepare the new report. Show every irregularity, every strength, every weakness. No hiding. If the investors walk away, at least we will have stood honest. Maria nodded firmly. I will do my best. That night, as she returned to her small apartment, Maria felt the weight of the storm coming. She had wanted to help, but now she was in the very center of the company's greatest test. Her mother noticed her silence. What troubles you, child? Maria looked at her with tired eyes. The truth is heavy, Mama. But I think it is the only path forward. Her mother smiled gently. Then you already know the answer. The next morning, Maria returned to the tower with new resolve. The storm of the deal was almost here, and she would stand with Daniel through it. Whatever happened, she knew this, her voice mattered. The morning of the pitch arrived like the breaking of a storm. The sky outside the city tower was gray, heavy clouds pressing down. Inside, the building was bright with movement. Screens lit up, staff hurried through the halls, and the conference floor filled with quiet tension. Maria walked beside Daniel as they entered the grand hall. Investors from across the world had gathered. Suits and sharp eyes filled the seats. Every detail seemed important, every word, every gesture. At the front of the room, a giant screen waited. The new formula was ready to be shown. But unlike before, this presentation was not smoothed or polished. It was filled with the truth, with every irregularity marked clearly. Daniel turned to Maria before stepping onto the stage. His voice was steady but low. Remember, honesty is our only shield today. Stay calm. Maria nodded, her hands clutching her notebook. She had helped prepare the slides, checked the numbers 3 times, and made sure every chart was real. Yet she knew one wrong moment could shatter everything. The lights dimmed. Daniel began. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. Today, we show you not a fantasy, but reality. This formula is strong, useful, and honest. He walked through the slides. The graphs appeared one by one. Some showed great promise. The compound held stable for long hours, energy output was high. But others revealed dips, irregular points, and sudden drops. The truth stood clear for all to see. Murmurs spread across the hall. Some investors leaned forward, impressed by the detail. Others frowned, whispering doubts to their partners. One investor, a tall man in a silver tie, raised his hand. "Mr. Daniel, why present these flaws? Surely you know irregularities shake investor trust. Why not keep only the strong results?" The room grew still. Daniel paused, then said, "Because lies are weak. If I sold you a perfect picture today, you would find the cracks tomorrow. We want partners who value honesty, not illusions." Maria felt her heart beat faster. She had feared this very question, but Daniel's answer carried strength. Still, not everyone was convinced. Another investor, a woman with sharp glasses, said, "Your honesty is noted. But how can we trust a compound with visible weaknesses?" Daniel gestured to Maria. "This is Maria." She found what others overlooked. She was not afraid to speak the truth. If our team can face flaws, then we can also fix them. That is the kind of foundation worth building upon. The spotlight shifted. Maria froze for a moment as eyes from every corner turned toward her. She had never stood before such a powerful crowd. Her voice shook at first, but she spoke. "The formula is not perfect," she said simply. "But it is real. Every strong discovery begins with questions. What matters is that we do not hide, and we do not give up. If you stand with us, we will make it stronger, together." Silence followed. Then whispers rose again. Some investors looked thoughtful. Others seemed doubtful. The silver-tied man leaned back. "You take a great risk, young lady, by speaking so openly." Maria met his gaze. "The greater risk is silence." A ripple passed through the room. Some faces softened. A few even smiled. The pitch ended after long questions, long debates. The investors left for a private chamber to decide. Daniel sat down heavily once they were gone. The hall was empty except for a few staff. He rubbed his forehead. It could go either way. They might see us as too risky. Maria placed her notebook on the table. Or they might see us as different. Different from the ones who hide. Different from the ones who sell lies. Minutes stretched into hours. At last, the investors returned. Their leader, the woman in sharp glasses, stepped forward. The room held its breath. "We have reviewed," she said. "Many companies show us only what shines. Few show us what is true. Your honesty is rare, and though the road may be longer, we believe it will last. We will invest under one condition. Maria must remain part of your team." Daniel stood tall, his eyes bright. "She is not only part of the team, she is one of its strongest voices." Maria's knees felt weak, but joy filled her heart. She had never dreamed such words would be spoken about her. The deal was signed. Applause echoed through the hall. Staff cheered quietly in the back. Daniel turned to Maria, his voice warm. "You have changed this company. Today, you saved us again." Maria smiled, though her eyes grew misty. "I only spoke the truth." "No," Daniel said, shaking his head. "You carried courage where others feared. That is greater than truth alone." As the day ended, the city lights flickered on outside the glass tower. Maria stood at the window, her reflection mingling with the skyline. She thought of her mother, of the hotel, of the first day she whispered a warning. Now, she was no longer just a waitress. She was a voice that could change the course of a company, perhaps even more. Her story had only begun.